Hello everyone, welcome back to BSc Chemistry Study Room. If you are new to this room, please subscribe for more video updates. And if you have already subscribed, please click on the notification button for more video updates. Today in this video, we are going to discuss under orbitals and shape. Orbitals and shapes are very easy and simple. We have four different types of orbitals. We have S orbital, P orbital, D orbitals, and F orbital. So in this video, we are going to discuss under S, P, and D orbitals. Orbitals is defined as the region in space where the probability of finding an electron is maximum. Any region in space, there is the probability of finding an electron there. Now, let's see number one, S orbital. S orbital. S orbital is spherical or circular in shape. This is the orbital. It is circular in shape, i.e., for hydrogen. Hydrogen is an atom having only one electron. This electron is always moving or surrounding the shell in a circular form. And also S orbital has no suborbital in S orbital. Going for P orbital. These orbitals has three suborbitals and this orbital is dumbbell belt in shape. This is the shape, dumbbell belt in shape, having its maximum amplitude against each orbital. These are the P suborbitals. We have Px, Py, and Pz. P orbitals, Px, Py, and Pz. And this is the shape. The shape is dumbbell belt in shape. So now drawing the shapes, one may be asked to draw the shape under Px, only on x-axis. So this is the plane, and for Px, this is x-axis. And we are going to draw the shape on x-axis. This is how it looks. Dumbbell belt in shape. The maximum amplitude on x-axis is here. Maximum amplitude. Here also maximum amplitude. So let's go for number 2, Py. Here is x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. So we are going to locate our maximum amplitude under y-axis. Here it is. Dumbbell belt in shape, and here is the maximum amplitude. Also maximum amplitude here. Going for number 3, Pz. Here is x, y, and z axis. So we are going to drop our maximum amplitude under z plane, z axis. Here it looks like. Dumbbell belt in shape. Also here is the maximum amplitude, and here the maximum amplitude. Drawing all the axes on the same plane, that is drawing Px, Py, and Pz axis on the same plane, here is how it looks. We are going to draw the Px under x-axis. Here how it looks. A dumbbell belt shape. So now after x, then Py under y-axis. Here it's how it looks. A dumbbell belt also on y-axis. So now Pz on z-axis. Here also a dumbbell belt on z-axis. And their maximum amplitude is always located at the maximum distance or maximum point of each axis. Amplitude here, amplitude, and amplitude also here. So now let's look for number 3, d orbital. D orbital has 5 suborbitals. It's a little more complicated than p and s orbital, and having 5 suborbitals, and it is clover leaf in shape. Now we can see how it looks. D orbitals has 5 suborbitals. Here are they. Number 1, dxy. Number 2, dyx. dzx. dz square and dx square minus y square. And this is the shape. The shape is a clover leaf in shape. It looks like a flower. This is the clover leaf in shape. So now drawing the shapes, let's start with number 1, dxy. Number 1. So in order to avoid any confusion, that means to write or draw the dxy in a correct form, one should always put the x and y axis. That means the wanted variables x and y should always be placed on the two upper planes. That means x and y, in order to avoid any confusion in drawing the maximum amplitude. And the missing variables z always on the horizontal line. Here is x, y, and z on the horizontal line. So now to draw the shape of these x and y, the shape is always in between x-axis and y-axis. That is, the maximum amplitude is in between x and y. This is how it looks. And after drawing x and y, then the z, that is the missing variables, then we draw a small amplitude. Now let's move for number 2. Number 2 is dyx. In order to still avoid any confusion, write your y-x axis on the two upper planes. That is y here and x on the other upper plane, and the missing variables on the horizontal plane. Then the maximum amplitude is always in between y and x. This is how it looks. Then the missing variable, we draw a very small amplitude on it. So now let's go for number 3. Number 3 is dzx, always on the top, z and x, the missing variable here. So now the maximum amplitude is in between z and x, and very small amplitude on y, the missing variable. Then now for dz square. Dz square is a little more complicated, but it is simple. This is how it looks. Dz here. Then we draw a cycle on this plane and another cycle on the lower part. Then we draw the amplitude, the maximum amplitude, like this. 2 and again. So this is how dz square looks like. Number 5 is dx square minus y square. Always dx square are written on the top two planes. Then x here and y here. Then the missing variable z here. So this x square, we are going to draw it under the x-axis, and the y square on the y-axis. So here we go for x-axis. This is how we draw it on x-axis. And the last one is y on y-axis. This is how we are drawing it. So, and all they have their maximum amplitude here. So this is the clover leaf in shape. This is why we obtain clover leaf in shape of d orbital. Let's look for work problems. Work problem number 1 says, arrange the following orbitals in ascending and descending order. When we said ascending order, we mean from lowest orbital to the highest orbital. And when we say descending, we mean from the highest orbital to lower orbital. And these can be solved in two different ways. We can solve it by arrow showing the ascending or descending order. And we can solve it by arithmetic form, that is in greater than or less than way. So now let's try to solve this problem by ascending order. For ascending order, to solve this problem for ascending order, we are going to start with the lowest orbital. The lowest orbital here is px. We have px, then we have py. After py, we have dxy, and then we have dzx, and the last is dz square. So now we are going to show the arrow. The arrow means from lowest orbital to the highest orbital. That is means in ascending order, written in ascending order. So now let's try to solve it in descending order. When we say descending order, we mean from higher orbital to the lowest orbital. From descending order, higher orbitals to lowest orbital. The higher orbital here is dz square. Then we have dzx, dzx. Then after dzx, we have dxy, Then after dxy, we have pz, After pz, we have py. And the last is px. So this is an arrangement of these orbitals in descending order. That means from the higher orbitals to the what? Lowest orbital in descending order. Dz square shows that this point is where the orbital is higher. Then it goes down. That means descending order from higher orbital to lower orbital. I made a little mistake here. Before dxy, there is pz orbital. Pz orbital before dxy. So good. Now, let's try to solve this problem again in another way. That means in arithmetic form. We can write it in form of greater than or less than. Let's solve this one first. We can write it as px less than py less than pz less than dxy and less than dzx, and the last less than dz square. We can write it in this form. They are all the same. And let's look this one. We can write it as dz square greater than dzx greater than dxy and greater than pz greater than py, and the last is greater than px. This brings the end of our today's lesson. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification button in order to be notified whenever we make a new upload. And if you have any question, please drop your questions in the comment section below. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching.